Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube NFL prediction segment, I'm going to be giving you my picks and analysis for Week 16 of the 2017 NFL season. So anyway, people, first thing is, well, I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens at home over the Indianapolis Colts. Baltimore, I always joke about their ravenous defense. It looks like it's pretty good. I mean, it may not be what it was back when they won the Super Bowl last, but they're still very good. I mean, Baltimore's leading the NFL, 22 defensive interceptions. They got plus 17 turnover differential, 11 takeaways. I mean, and playing against the Indianapolis Colts road game, they couldn't beat Denver at home. I don't see how they can conceivably beat Baltimore. They're allowing over 26 points per game, and they're allowing league high 53 sacks. So this could be a field day for that pass rush for Baltimore, and they are at home. I like Baltimore to win at home. Next game. Well, first I was going to take Green Bay over Minnesota, but now I'm leaning more with Minnesota. Green Bay, as you know, lost to Carolina last week. That puts, and also Atlanta won their game. So Green Bay is officially eliminated from playoff competition. And now the main question is Aaron Rodgers going to play? Are they going to play for some pride and dignity in this one? I mean, my feeling is if he does play, it won't be that much. I don't think he's going to play. It's too much of a risk of exacerbating an injury. They're out of the playoffs right now. I do like Minnesota to win. This one, Minnesota is 5-2 on the road in 2017, coupled with the fact they do have some motivation, incentive to win because they still have a chance at getting that #1 seed. So they're also, I mean, they've won 9 of their last 10. They're also #2 in total and scoring defense. They have very tenacious defense right now. Green Bay, I mean, though, keep in mind at home, and with Hundley at quarterback, I mean, my feeling is he's going to be the one starting this game. They really, I mean, they might have a shot to win this. I mean, I think they might actually make it close. But, I mean, you look at what, Green Bay right now, and the fact that if Rodgers does not play, coupled with the fact Minnesota is very good, they're very improved from last season. They're one of the best teams in the NFL right now. I mean, and their defense is not exactly stupendous. I like Minnesota to win this one on the road. Next game, I'm going to take Chicago at home over the Cleveland Browns. This is like a toilet bowl game this week. You got Chicago averaging 16.7 points per game. The Browns 14.8. Chicago is just a little bit better, it seems like, at least on the statistical standpoint, and their record a little bit better than Cleveland right now. Chicago is reeling, though. They have lost 6 of 7. Running back Jordan Howard, I think he's going to play well against the Browns. Now, the Browns, surprisingly, are one of the better run defenses in the NFL, #8. But I think a lot of that might have to do with the fact that maybe teams know they can pass on the Browns. So for these reasons, Browns have had 19 consecutive road losses. They've dropped 32 of 33, and they're also worst in the NFL in turnover differential, -25. They just make too many turnovers, and I think that Chicago wins the turnover battle and the game. I like Chicago at home. Next game, I'm going to take the Detroit Lions on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, Detroit right now, I mean, they have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, of course, with Matthew Stafford, #5 in passing yards per game. They're averaging nearly 26 points a game. And wide receiver Marvin Jones, I think he's going to have a good game against the Cincinnati pass defense. The pass defense is actually not that bad. They're #8 in the NFL, but I think Detroit still wins that battle. Cincinnati's averaging only about 17 points per game. They're dead last in total offense, and they're also dead last in rushing yards per game. I think they're going to have it's going to be hard for them to sustain drives in this one. I think the Detroit defense will just be good enough to contain Cincinnati because the Cincinnati offense is not exactly stellar. So I'm taking Detroit to win this one on the road. Next game, I like LA Rams on the road against the Tennessee Titans. Rams are 6-1 on the road this season. Very good road team. They put up 42 on Seattle last week. They're averaging about 31 points per game. They're also number 2 in defensive sacks in the league. Now, Titans, on the other, in contrast, are a very good home team. They're 5-1 at home. On the other, what's the thing about the Titans though is they have just had their offense has had trouble to put points up on the board. In the last 8 games, the most points they scored in any game was 24. The one positive with Tennessee, though, being even in addition to being at home, they are number 3 in run defense in the league. They may be able to contain Todd Gurley Jr., but I think the offense is just going to be too much for the Titans to handle defensively. The offense of the Rams is going to be too much for the Titans to handle defensively. So I like the Rams to win this one on the road. Next game. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs at home to defeat the Miami Dolphins. Kansas City right now 5-2 at home. It looks like they have turned the corner. The last 3 games, they've compiled nearly 1,300 offensive yards. They really they kept the Chargers in check last week, holding them to 13 points. And the Chargers, they were looking really good going into that game. And the Chiefs have only allowed 28 points combined in the last 2 games. Miami right now, just 2-4 on the road this season. They're also, they have, of course, the erratic and sporadic Jay Cutler. They've dropped 6 of their last 8, and obviously, Jay Ajayi leaving has obviously been to their detriment strongly. I do like Kansas City to win this one at home. Next game. I want to take the New England Patriots to win at home over the Buffalo Bills. New England has won 4-5 against the Bills. They've dominated the series. They, including where they subjugated them earlier this season at Buffalo, 23-3. And New England also has won 9 of their last 10. They're right now number 1 in passing yards per game. And with Rob Gronkowski, he destroyed Buffalo's defense last time. He had 147 receiving yards. I think he's going to get at least 100 in this one, likely. Buffalo just 2-4 on the road this season. The thing about them is they're also one of the worst teams in passing yards per game. They're near the middle. They're around the middle of the pack in passing yards allowed per game. And then with Gronk in the mix and on the offense for New England, I think they're probably going to give up more in terms of their allowing passing yards than they do on average in this one. So I like New England to win this one at home. Next game, I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints to win at home over the Atlanta Falcons. New Orleans obviously going to be seeking retribution for that loss they suffered to Atlanta earlier this season. The Saints, they're just a very well-balanced team. They're number 1 in total offense. Their defense has improved. They had Cameron Jordan was making a number of deflections last week against the Jets. Things that just you don't necessarily show up in the statistical column. It's just a very complete team right now. They're averaging nearly 29 points per game. Atlanta right now, well, there's people out there that are debating whether or not Atlanta is for real or not. I think this will be the game to really make that determination as to where Atlanta is right now in terms of are they a contender or are they actually a pretender. Atlanta has defeated the Saints 3 consecutive times, including that close win they had over them earlier this season. They're averaging about 23 points per game, not nearly as much as the Saints. They are number 9 in total offense, and they have been on a little bit of a roll. They've won 5 of their last 6. An interesting stat for Atlanta that they are 9-0 when scoring 20 or more points. So I think it's really imperative that the Saints keep that Atlanta total, their point total under 20. If I remember correctly, the earlier game this season where the Saints played the Falcons scored right at 20. So they just keep the Saints to like 17. They should be able to win this game because the Saints are more than capable of scoring over 17 points. So anyway, I do like the Saints to win at home. Next game. I'm going to take the LA Chargers to win on the road against the New York Jets. The Chargers, I mean, despite falling on their faces last week to the Chiefs, they are still a solid team. I think they've won 7 of the last 10. They have 16 defensive interceptions. They only allowed 17 sacks. They should be able to give Philip Rivers abundance of protection in this one. They are +7 in turnover differential. And you look at the Jets are just going in the opposite direction. They have dropped 7 of 9. The positive for the Jets, though, they have been competitive in the majority of their games this season. They actually, I mean, they played the Saints very well last week. I mean, the Saints broke away at the end with a late touchdown, and they won by like 12 points over the Jets. But the Jets were in that game for like maybe 3.5 quarters against the Saints. Now, also, the Jets are number 20 in the NFL in passing yards allowed per game at about 234. They allowed 285 last week. Now you're going against Philip Rivers. Could maybe I'm fearing the Jets may give up close to 300 in this one passing yards and lose this game. I think the Chargers are still playing very well, and I think the Jets are just kind of, I mean, they play hard, and it's no, I'm a New York Jets fan, don't get me wrong. I love to see them win. They played exceptionally hard in a lot of these games, but the tendency with the Jets, what's epitomized the Jets season this year, is the fact that they'll play hard and they find a way to lose. I think that's going to be similar this game. I like the Chargers to win on the road. Next game. I'm going to take the Washington Redskins to win at home over the Denver Broncos. The Washington Redskins right now, there's really not too many real positive things to say about them. They have been ravaged with injuries this season. One of the good things about them is they have Zach Brown that has 127 tackles. He leads the team in tackles. They have the Redskins, though, they do win the games that you feel they should win. They have all the losses they have this season were to teams that now have a winning record. And they have beaten all the teams that they play that currently have a losing record. So I think it's going to be the same in this. The trend is going to continue. And you have Kirk Cousins at quarterback. He's still, I think, really a solid quarterback. He could very well be a top 10 quarterback. A lot of people get on him because he don't come through in this game in the clutch in the games that he should win, or in prime time he doesn't exactly flourish, but I still think he's very decent, above average quarterback. Denver right now, I mean, they're on a 2-game winning streak. They have a little bit of swagger, but Denver is just 1-6 on the road this season. Their one road win was against the Indianapolis Colts last week. The Broncos have outscored opponents like 48-13 in those 2 wins. So keep in mind, Denver's defense is playing much better. They've had a couple, I mean, especially the game before the Colts where they had a dominant performance. But I don't know if they could do it 3 weeks consecutively and going to Washington, an unfamiliar opponent. I like the Redskins at home. Next game, I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers to win at home over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Carolina, right now, I mean, this team is obviously on a rampage in a row. They have won 6 of 7. Tight end Greg Olsen was factored in very strongly last week in the win over Green Bay. The defense played very well. They had forced Aaron Rodgers, to throw 3 interceptions, which is very uncharacteristic of him. And Carolina is 5-2 at home this season. And you look at Tampa Bay, they just really have underachieved. They did not reach any kind of aspirations at all. I mean, they are out of any, playoff contention. They've dropped 9 of 11. They've lost 4 consecutive games, just 1-6 on the road. And they are winless in their division, 0-4. I like Carolina to win this one at home. Next game. I want to take the Jacksonville Jaguars to win on the road over the San Francisco 49ers. Jacksonville right now, there's not enough superlatives you could say for them, especially on the defensive end. Number 1 scoring defense, number 1 in defensive sacks with 51. They've also won 7 of 8. They would have had 8 consecutive wins, but they lost a close one in that stretch, like 27-24, I believe it was to Arizona. They're also number 1 in rushing yards per game at about 149. And the San Francisco 49ers, though, right now the run defense is not great. I think that's where Jacksonville is going to have that strong edge. But San Francisco right now appears to be very rejuvenated and revived with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. I mean, a lot of people didn't think that they would beat the Titans last week. I was one of them. I was cynical and skeptical. I think right now you have to look at this game in Week 17 coming up, that San Francisco has a shot in both those games. They have a better shot in this one, I think, against Jacksonville than a lot would have projected earlier before Garoppolo started for this team and played well. 49ers are 3-0 with Jimmy Garoppolo. The team, since Garoppolo during that 3-game winning streak, the 49ers have over 1,200 offensive yards. If I'm not mistaken, Garoppolo has thrown for at least 300 yards in all three of those games. So, I mean, I think he's the real deal. I mean, he's going to be tested against a very vaunted Jacksonville defense. And who would have thought we'd say Jacksonville and number one scoring defense in the NFL, that we would say that in the same sentence? Certainly not me, and I think most of us out there didn't. That being said, Jacksonville right now, they are playing for playoff positioning. This game is still important to them. I like them to win on the road. Next game, I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys at home over the Seattle Seahawks. Dallas right now, they're starting to get their act together. They've won 3 consecutive games. As many of you may know, running back Ezekiel Elliott is going to return to the lineup. In the 3-game winning streak for the Cowboys, they've only allowed about 14 points per game in that streak. The defense is starting to step up. Seattle right now, they're starting to reel a little bit. They lost last week. They got annihilated by the Rams. Now they got to go on the road after that hard loss at home. And I mean, without Richard Sherman, right now this team is certainly not the same. Seattle, though, is solid on the road. They're 4-3 on the road this season, but and 2-2 in out of conference games. But one of the bright spots of the constants for the Seattle Seahawks is Bobby Wagner. Linebacker Bobby Wagner is one of the leaders in the NFL in tackles. This game, I mean, I expect Seattle to play better than last week. They almost have to. That was an abysmal performance. If I'm not mistaken, and I think they said something on ESPN about that being like the worst loss Seattle's endured during the time that of their current head coach, Pete Carroll's tenure there. So, I mean, so they almost have to be better. They'll make some adjustments, but I think Dallas still wins this game. I like Dallas at home. Next game, I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals to win at home over the New York Giants. I got to go against my Giants. I mean, again, Arizona right now, they're decimated with injuries, but the Giants are as well. Arizona right now, I mean, I think that what's going to be key, the wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald against the Giants secondary. Giants are one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. They're giving up in pass defense about 263 yards per game. They also have lost 4 straight games this season. As many of you may know, they've only won 2 games total this season. I don't think they're going to get the third in this one. The Giants, to their credit, they showed some heart and passion last week against the Eagles. They did everything but beat them. But after that, such an emotional game and loss, and now having to go on the road. I mean, I like Arizona. Arizona managed to beat the Titans recently. I think they could beat the Giants at home. I like Arizona to win at home. Next game, I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers to win on the road against the Houston Texans. I mean, Pittsburgh could beat just about anybody unless the name of the team is the New England Patriots. Pittsburgh is 1-8 of 9. They're also, the thing about it is wide receiver Antonio Brown will be out. He's been ruled out for this game. That is his status, some calf injury. Even without him, though, they still got a lot of, proponents on offense get the job done. With Big Ben Roethlisberger and running back Le'Veon Bell, they still have enough weapons on offense as far as the receivers go and tight ends. The defense, they got 43 defensive sacks on the season. Houston has allowed 45 sacks, one of the worst in the league. They just don't have very good protection for their quarterback. They've been ravaged with injuries. They have dropped 7 of 8 and lost 4 consecutive games. They've averaged only about 13 points per game in that 4-game stretch that they've lost. I like Pittsburgh to win on the road over Houston. Next game. Last but not least, I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles to win at home over the Oakland Raiders. Philadelphia right now, they got the best run defense in the league and #1 scoring offense. Flawless 6-0 at home this season. They might have Nick Foles at quarterback and not Carson Wentz, but they played just fine last week without Wentz. And they have basically their other main proponents healthy on that team. Nick Foles, he's still a good quarterback, and even if he's 80% of Carson Wentz, that'll be enough to get this job done, I think, for this team in this game. Oakland right now is number 25 in rushing yards per game. They just really, and you look at the run defense for Philadelphia, they're not going to be able to rack up many rushing yards. It's going to force Oakland to be one-dimensional with Carr. Throwing the ball a lot, I think. Oakland has also dropped 3 of 5 and just 2 and 4 on the road this season. This is not the same Oakland team that we saw last year that looked like, coming into this season might have had Super Bowl aspirations. That, of course, is dissipated into thin air. And Philadelphia definitely had, Philadelphia really, they really would like to keep winning because they have a chance to get the #1 spot in the NFC. I like the Eagles to win at home. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube NFL prediction segment for my Week 16 picks and analysis for the 2017 NFL season. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.